Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome back to another round of My Patriot Report Live. I'm Ratwan Hill, and I am with Mr. Walter Cotton III. Mr. Cotton, how you doing this Monday?
I'm well, thank you. I'm well.
Yes, sir, indeed. I know you saw it, but something I want to talk about today is the 8A audit, something we've been beating the drum on. They have December 5th, they issued the letter, audit letter to over 4,000 8A organizations. And from what I was reading, that they was expecting it to come out of the SBA Office of Government Contracting and Business Development, but instead it came out of the SBA Office of General Counsel. Can you tell me what's the difference between those two offices, and what does it mean?
Well, Rob Wong actually wrote a pretty good article on this particular subject. And you can search Rob on LinkedIn and find that comprehensive article. Rob will do a much better job at explaining the granularities than I will. I'm just going to try to give you the broad strokes of what that difference means from my layman perspective. What that simply means is that since it's no longer coming out of the Office of Business Development, this is potentially a legal action, right? It's not just a policy action. Let's look at the program to see what we can do to tweak the program. This is actually a evidence gathering initiative that's designed to send that information down one of multiple potential lanes, which include DOJ for prosecution. So the action went from a benign look-see to a really serious attempt to uncover fraud, waste, and abuse.
Wow. Okay. And to my understanding, so the 8A program, which is statute, it was originally designed as a business development program for small businesses that were socially and economically disadvantaged. And I wanted to go back, just for the individuals who may not be aware of the 8A program. Um,
Can I stop you there? Because, it's important that we know our history and we're accurate about our history. The 8A program was not designed as a small disadvantaged business facilitator. It was hijacked by the small disadvantaged business program, and it has been used to facilitate what many have considered an unconstitutional action for a few decades now. So that's the fact of the matter. And the powers that be, at least those detractors of the program, have looked at that program for years, trying to figure out a way to dismantle it without raising the ire of the public. DEI has given them the authority that they need.
wow. So you're saying it originally wasn't for small businesses. It was, who was it
Well,
originally for?
it wasn't for minority
Okay.
small disadvantaged businesses, right? That's the whole designation that people have historically associated with it, because there's the, social and economic disadvantage requirement to qualify. And most people of color, whether they be black, tribal, or the like, fall into that small disadvantaged MWBE category. So people have largely painted the 8A program with that ethnic contracting brush.
Yes, sir. Okay. And so my question is, when the 8A program is working the way it was intended to be, what kind of impact does it have on small businesses in their communities?
It has a huge impact on small businesses in their community when it works as it was designed, because it was created to level the playing field, to create an unfair advantage for those people who had been disproportionately disenfranchised in their communities. So when it works properly, the least of us within our communities have a fair opportunity to compete for contract opportunities in the federal space. Unfortunately, over the years, the invisible hand of opportunism and big business has gotten in there and just mucked up the program.
Okay, and now that leads into the where the you are here point right now, where they're auditing, and now it's officially hit the streets because now the 8A companies have received the letter, and now they have about 30 days to respond, or they risk being kicked out the program. Um, could you tell me this December 5th audit letter? What's what do you believe is going through the SBA's mind right now, in regards to that whole program?
Well, I mean, people talk about the federal government and the agencies as if they're this singular entity, right? And so the agency is made up of careerists, right, who have been there for decades, and political appointees that are driving the president's management agenda or the agenda of the administration that's in place right now. And so I can only imagine that the mindset within the agency right now is one of flex, because there are actions that have been contemplated for decades that are being implemented right now, right? And so the careerists can't believe their eyes when they're seeing this administration come in and do what they've never seen a renter do, right? That's what I like to refer to as our elected officials, right? They're renters, right? You rent the office for your elected season, and then you're gone, which is why I can't believe that America hasn't said more about what the current renter has done to the West Wing of the White House of these United States of America. But that's another story for another time. Right now, I believe that the appointees believe that they are executing against the management agenda of the administration without the understanding of the potential calamity, the potential disruption that would result if there was a major pull on the supply chain, and that major pull resulting from a large number of suspensions or
Mm-hmm.
debarments of people that are behaving badly. And I would apply to this particular situation the same type of treatment that the medical professionals apply in healthcare, and that is the employment of the Hippocratic Oath to first do no harm. Because if our acquisition system were a patient, right, what we're talking about here is one of its arteries, right? One of its core lifeblood element. And if that thing gets restricted, the cascading failure event is that the nation doesn't operate effectively, right? All of the systems that support our systems of systems that makes these United States run don't run effectively. So this is another one of the reasons why I've said that the disenfranchising of our supply chain is a threat to our national security, because we are not going to be able to just rack and pinion turn that thing back on a dime to get it back into place. So your question was, as I get off my soapbox and back to the answer, what is going through the mind? What is going through the thought process within the Small Business Administration right now? I believe that it is a mind of chaos. I believe that the careerists are concerned because they know that underneath those covers, they're going to find some icky stuff. And it may not be fraud, waste, and abuse. It may be just incompetency masking itself as fraud, waste, and abuse, but we're going to find some stuff. And the identification of stuff in a partisan environment like this causes the people that want to point at it to yell loudly, "Look at what I just found." And that type of identification only creates the pull and tug that I'm talking about that makes America less safe. So I've said this, and I will say it again. We need to reconsider this aggressive effort to consolidate requirements in the way that we are doing it now.
Yes, sir. Indeed. Okay, so we have the 8A program being audited right now, and we also know that the Department of Treasury is auditing all the other socioeconomic statuses. And so what I'm hearing you say is that the disruption of the 8A program is going to disrupt, is a vital organ, and is going to disrupt things. So when they hit the streets on the rest of the socioeconomic statuses, that could be catastrophic, potentially.
It's definitely going to be catastrophic, and you know, the truth of the matter is, you know, what we're experiencing is the outcome of a plan, a design, right? This is a designed outcome that someone sat down and said, "Hey, this would be a good idea." In my humble opinion, it's not necessarily a intelligent design, but this is a designed outcome, because if you are, you know, one like myself who likes to follow the breadcrumbs, like to look at the trends, you see that this is a part of a arc of performance that's coming from a trajectory that started 3 or 4 years ago. No, maybe 5 years ago. I mean, I trace it back to the early days of the Byron Allen Comcast lawsuit, which changed the measure of discrimination in these United States from likely to include race to but for your race, which caused the weight, the measure that you had to employ to improve or to prove discrimination, it moved it to a higher level. And that action happened before all of these shenanigans, right? President Biden showing up at the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa massacre, committing to increasing the small disadvantaged business contracting to 15% at a time when he should have known that there was a constitutional moratorium against that. And so by promoting that, that's like shaking red, bloody meat at the hungry lions, right? You open the door for those people that are against, right, these small disadvantaged business programs. And so now here we are, right? We've got a DEI. The pendulum has swung aggressively to the other side, and people are not looking at this from a rational perspective. They're looking at the situation from a partisan perspective. They just want to win, right? They just want to win the argument. And if you're over 10 and you believe everything that you hear on CNN, you're in too deep. Right now, we have a need to speak truth to power, whether it's in these agencies or in our congressional halls, because they are dragging us into a situation that is simply dangerous.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Indeed. But okay, so that's the one side of the coin. But the other side of the coin is that because of all these disruptions, it's going to present an opportunity for the small businesses that are ready and are in compliant to essentially be the ones that step up to get these disrupted opportunities. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct, right? The opportunity in this marketplace, when you have a $1.3 trillion wealth transfer that's occurring, is for the ready small business, the agile small business that can scale to become a bigger small business, to take advantage of the regulatory, right? The regulatory differentiators that they have, but more importantly, the one that has the ability to dynamically engineer what the customer needs at the point of need. Those businesses in this season are going to win big. And so if I'm a small business out there, right, I'm first making sure that I've got the social uniform du jour, right? Like, what is the high demand social uniform? Is it woman owned small business? Is it minority owned small business? No, I don't think so. I think that's persona non grata. Or is it veteran owned small business? So I'm making sure I've got the uniform du jour on. Then the next thing I'm doing is I'm making sure that I've got the capability and capacity to be razor sharp and tiger tough against any requirement that comes down the pipe. And if you do that in this season, when the government is suspending perpetrators, they're suspending offenders, right? You're in a position to be the one that the government novates contracts over to. That's a whole different level. We're not talking about competition. We're talking about, you fit the bill. I'm going to sign this thing and I'm going to take this $20 million contract. I'm going to move it over to you. So in this kind of a season, what you have to do is put yourself in the position to be the most agile service disabled veteran or veteran owned small business in the system.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. And so I was seeing a post from the 1102 community, and I've been seeing them saying that, they're pretty overworked, stressed. Well, we already know they were already that, but now during this disruption, it's been even worse during this season. Can you, from your perspective, what do you see as this causing to the 1102 community? Meaning, is this just going to take it over the level of stress level, work burden, or is this just like a bigger plan to implement AI to streamline some of this stuff? Or like, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, let me talk to my 1102 friends, or let me talk to my American citizens about a concept that we know very well in business that's known as the Peter Principle, right? And in the Peter Principle, that's in business where an individual is promoted to inefficiency, right? He may be the best line cook, right? He may be the best, or she may be the best waitress or salad bar attendant in the system. But once you promote them to shift manager, right, you promote them to a unit manager, right, their skill sets retard because they don't have the diversity and skill sets necessary for the job, right? We have a lot of Peter Principle going on right now within our government, right? We have some individuals who have been appointed into critical leadership positions that just do not have the capability and capacity to deliver against the mission. And as a result of that, there are strategies, there are concepts that are being employed that our civil servants, our military leaders are being asked to execute against. And in this season, it is critical that you, as a civil servant, employ caveat emptor, right? The buyer beware. That you make sure that you know that what you're doing is covered by laws, regulations, and everything else that's associated with your position. Because when you're dealing with a group like this that's moving fast and loose with laws and regulations, right? They can ask you to do some things that can get you in harm's way. And I literally wrote an article, did a podcast, I want to say back in October, where I spoke to this exact same issue, and it's reared its head in the double tap scenario, the double tap challenge that we have right now in the Gulf of Mexico. And at the end of the day, right, the admiral followed orders. Mm-hmm. And maybe was not reminded of the fact that he had the ability to employ Article 90 from the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which allows him to evaluate and resist illegal orders that come from anywhere within the chain of command. On the acquisition side of the equation, we have a similar set of challenges going on as they attempt to centralize these requirements under Executive Order 14240. And the similarity to the challenge that the Admiral is experiencing is that the heads of the contracting activity, right, the HCHs, the SCSs out there are being asked to participate in actions that are infringing on the civil rights of the contractors that you are serving. They're not telling you that. They're equally not telling you that under 42 USC 1986, you are personally liable for that action. Let me say that in a way that you understand it from a layman perspective. You, as the head of a contracting activity, participate in an action that violates the civil rights of a contractor. That contractor not only has a recourse against the agency for that action, but he or she has a recourse against you personally. And if that is a $20 million, $50 million, $100 million requirement, and you get caught up in the soup, your family will be personally bankrupted. So understanding that you as a citizen have a right to protect yourself and your family, just like that admiral had a responsibility to every man and woman that was in his command to not violate the Geneva Convention if it was violated. I'm not suggesting that it was, but he has an obligation as the leader of the forces to know the difference, right? You, as a head of contracting, have that similar responsibility, not for your servicemen and women, though. In this instance, you need to study yourself approved for your family, right? You need to look and see if, the bald guy who's telling you about, 42 USC 1986, right, is telling you about something that you can personally be liable for. And if he's telling you the truth, you need to do the right thing on behalf of your family. And I'm going to put the big talking stick down.
Yeah, no, that's very important. That's important because we want to make sure everybody is protected and everybody is doing things that are correct by the Constitution. My question is, so for the organizations that are in that crosshair, that get caught in the crossfire and they find some there, is it just a simple? Is it a disbarment? Is it a fine? Is it just suspension of contracts? All of the above. What are we looking at as worst case scenarios for these organizations?
Overreaction. That's the worst case scenario, right? The overreaction that comes from the "it's my turn" attitude, and you got caught. That's what we're challenged with, and that overreaction's ability to cause economic impacts that are irrecoverable, right? Tariffs sound like a good idea on the front end of the circumstance, but when they're connected to a system of systems, right, they could have an economic impact that is seismic. And right now we got an affordability impact that's seismic. I can afford, right, to live my life in whatever way I desire. Let me say it that way, right? But I look at the increase that I pay for the things that my wife and my family consume. And we went to a burger joint at Penn Station this Saturday night, man. I bought a hamburger for myself. My wife got a chicken sandwich and a shake. It was $44. It was $44. The average American can't stand that. So we have to take a look at, the fact that there is a interdependent set of actions that occur when these events are not taken into consideration. And right now, we have a problem on our hand that needs to be resolved. And again, I'm going to put the big talking stick down because I tend to get passionate about this.
Yeah, no, those are definitely important facts. And when you think about it, how I looked at it from my perspective, it seems like there's no middle class really. It's like either you're the ultra wealthy or you're everybody else. And so that from my perspective, that what it definitely seems like.
I believe that may be the intention, right? To continue to erode the middle class and increase the underclass. Right? That looks like it's the trend. The beautiful thing about living in these United States of America is that we live under the auspices of a constitutional republic that gives each and one of our votes a voice. And we have the ability to aggregate those votes in the square under our democratic process of electing leaders. And we have an event coming up in 2026, the midterm election. And it's at the polling place that we will demonstrate our appreciation or dislike for I'm not going to talk about our Congress right now. I'll wait until we get closer to the polling date to let my position be known.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, and from a collaborative standpoint, for the disenfranchised, other socioeconomic statuses that are disenfranchised, what's the message for these organizations? Because we tend to look at co-opetition over competition. So what would be your message to those disenfranchised organizations?
Well, to recognize that there's strength in numbers, right? To recognize that, si se puede requires a we the people movement, right? Yes, we can is a we statement. It's a collective statement, right? And so the objective right now would be to find people that share your perspective, that share your idea, that share your platform, and make sure that you have a political leadership that is delivering strategies and concepts that support your ideas. This is not a season to sit on the sideline and wait until election day, right? This is a season for you to get out there in the voter square in your local environment and get involved and make sure that you're not just sitting there on Saturday night or the evening news yelling at the TV. You're actually involved. You're engaged. You're doing something. I'm over my second retirement, right? But as a true patriot, as a citizen soldier, I saw a need. I see a significant need to help our veterans and our disabled veterans support this demand that the country's putting on us to help revitalize our manufacturing, right? To help shore up our supply chain. And so what did I do? Right? I took on the responsibility of becoming the president of a statewide organization at my ripe old age of 66, right? And if I can do that, right, you youngins, you guys can get involved as well. So right now I'm going through the process of implementing a strategy in New York State that will drive $50 billion worth of economic impact in 2026. If you'd like to get a piece of that, join us. Come to one of our meetings, join the Elite Service Disabled Veteran Network, do something. Just don't sit on the sideline and comment.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. And also drop some questions down in the comment section in the chat to let us know, your thoughts and get, some things that you may want answered from one of the nation's leading subject matter experts. I did have one more question, Mr. Cotton, for you. If I'm an 8A owner watching this and I know I've been doing things the right way, how should I look at this audit request mentally?
No problem. No problem. You should look at it as no problem. The challenge is in that subjective language that you used. I know I'm doing things the right way, right? And my undergraduate is in accounting with a concentration in forensic accounting. So I know the subjectivity of the audit experience. So, you need to make sure that your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed before you send that paperwork in there, right? Because what may have been just a, unintentional oversight could be viewed, it could be treated as a violation that debars you from ever doing business with the federal government again. So I'd be making sure I'm in compliance and then adhering to the timeline, adhering to the deadline. Because they've made this thing. I don't want to sound like no Nostradamus because I'm no predictor of the future. But those of you who've been following me for a while know that I've been predicting this for the better part of a decade. As a matter of fact, I saw this one coming so far back. Those that had ears to hear and eyes to see saw me yelling, telling you that it's coming.
Yeah.
And so we're here now, right? We're at a place where the balance of power has been shifted. Now we need to do something about it. And sitting on the sideline, pissing and moaning isn't going to get you there. Get involved. And if you wear my social uniform and you happen to have served this great nation, there is a $1.3 trillion wealth transfer that you need to be a part of. Holla at your boy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, indeed. And guys, we're going to end this on that note. Catch us back on Wednesday, same place, same time. I'm Ratwan Hill, and that is the nation's leading subject matter expert, Mr. Walter Cotton III. Until next time, guys, we're out.